Okay, in this video, we're going to take a look at arrays. Now, what an array is, it's lots of the same thing. So what I mean by that is, depending on the language you're using, is you have an array of strings, an array of integers, an array of booleans. You can have an array of anything. You can have an array of objects. You can have an array of whatever you want, your own made-up variable, your own class, anything. In certain languages, I know in Python, you can get away with putting things like strings and integers in the same array. That's not quite standard, but it does work in Python. JavaScript, I've never tried it. You might be able to. I'll find out in a minute. I'll have a little look. Like as I said, normally it's the same type. I'm sort of come from a traditional sort of background where all of my arrays and things have been in C#. That's the language I learned when I was trained to be a programmer. So a lot of my sort of understanding and usage of arrays is keeping to the same data type. So if I type in let scores equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I do an alert and I do scores, you'll see that I can print out all of the scores together from one variable. I'm saying print scores and it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that alert box there. Maybe a little bit easier. It's console.log it. It's a little bit rubbish on my screen, you can't quite see it. You should see in this corner, I'll just pan down a tiny bit. What you'll see is it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there with some square brackets. Now, square brackets just means an array. Now, with arrays, if I want to get the first thing out of an array, I have to put scores 0 because arrays start at 0. You see it said the number 1 in the corner. That's how arrays work. So if I want to get number 5, that's actually the fourth thing because we're counting from 0. Now, as I said, depending on the language you use, like in C# for example, you would set the array to be of type integer. You'd set the array to be of type ant or balloon or whatever it is you're making. So that's your sort of basic arrays. You can set them all at the start like this, but sometimes you might want to add things later on. Let's say you're making a shopping list and you want to add loads of things to your shopping list. What we can use is scores.push, and I might say I want a PS5, and then I want to, on top of that, I want to push PS5, and then so let's just call it scores. Scores.push and a switch like that, and then console.log scores like that. What you'll see is I should have added our two bits there. So PS5 and switch are in our array. That's works perfectly. So now what I might want to do is get rid of something. Let's say I don't want the PS5 anymore. So I'll do scores.splice. The thing in slot 0, I want to get rid of one thing. If I run that now, it should just have the switch in there. So it's got the switch. Let's say I want to replace that with an Xbox. I might put Xbox like that. What it does is that will remove PS5 from my array and pop in Xbox. You see it's replaced it down there. If I'm honest with you, I would probably just splice it and then do a push afterwards. Depends entirely on what you want to do, your functionality. I just personally don't use it this way and I just push it again, but it all still works. The good thing then is what you can do is you can for loop through like in our previous lesson. So I could do for let I equals 0, I is less than, now I could say less than 1 because 0, 1, I've got two things in, but I can also do scores dot length I++, console.log scores like that, run it through, and it should say on separate lines Xbox and switch. See, it's not there because I said scores, mistakes happen, pop in I there, my iterator, and then it should say them on separate lines. That's pretty much it for arrays. So to remove something, we splice. To add something, we push. We can set them when we initialize them, or we can have an empty array and add to it later on using push. We can also use a thing called pop, which is more relevant when we're doing stacks and queues. But what pop does is gets rid of the thing on the top of the array, or the first thing in the array as well. So I could also do scores.pop. What that should do is take off that last thing we put in. So switch, took it off the end. Now pop works sort of like almost like a stack, where the last thing you put in, position wise, obviously X was the last thing I put in, but switch was still at the end. It always gives you the thing at the end, takes it off and outputs it. You might want to make your own push and pop function for your own data structure, which then takes everything up from the front. It's totally up to you. Use splice in that way. And that's basically it. So I'll see you in the next video. Please, if I was you, what I'd do is go ahead and make like a shopping list program where you've got items and their cost, for example. Make a program, have a bit of practice, half an hour a night I think is good enough at this stage, and then post your code in the comments.